I'm back. I'm tan. Let's talk about the immune system. Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Patrick Flynn. Welcome to this morning's A Different Perspective. I am always so excited that you guys are here with me this morning. I've been gone, as I said in the beginning. You know what I said? I said, I'm back. I'm tan. Let's talk about the autoimmune system. I'm so tired from still the editation of the time change from Hawaii that I meant the autoimmune reaction. Talking about the immune system, so we are very excited for the show today. Yes, I was gone. Thank you so much for the doctors and Nicole and everybody who stepped in for ADP the last couple weeks. It was a wonderful time. As you guys know, last time I was on the show, I was getting ready to go to Hawaii for my daughter's wedding. So congratulations to Faith and Devin. We had a beautiful time. It was fantastic. The weather was great. And when we were gone, Green Bay got some very large snowfall. It was kind of crazy. So I am actually happy I missed it and suffered out in Hawaii with 85 to 90 degree weather every day. So it was great, but I came back to piles of snow and it was fantastic. But I am so happy to be back. But thank you for all you guys that watched and conversed with my other practitioners during the show. I want to thank Courtney and Shane, thank Nicole, thank Dr. Jesse, who have done it. I can't believe it's been that many weeks since I've been on a show. It's basically been a month and stuff, but it kind of reminds me when I have to travel and speak, which a little secret is coming out here soon that I'm going to announce next week when it does come to me speaking, because as I said before, when I made the very emotional decision almost a year ago, or over a year ago, to stop speaking for a while. Now you guys know I'll go speak at an event here and there, but putting on the Hormone Connection Seminar, I kind of retired it. But as I said before, I didn't know what timeline I'd take a break on that way, and now he said, you know, Garth Brooks also came out of retirement 1 year. So it's kind of funny. I just took off some time, had lots of company, became international, became a franchise, there was a lot of business things. There was a lot of personal things that you just want to grow and change on that way. And it was great because we ended up having some just amazing things happen over the course of that year. And, but I'm going to speak a little bit more, but I will be announcing a little bit more of that next week as we get some of the more details my request for speaking has been dramatic. It's an all-time high. I can honestly tell you, not only just being interviewed on podcast, I recently just got asked to go back to London to be on a very popular podcast that broadcasts all over the world. So great opportunities, great things happening. Thank you for that. It was a great 3 weeks being gone and missed all the people that were here, but some of the people for Faith's wedding came out, so I got to visit them. It's also having a nice setting and a nice sun and ocean and whales and turtles and all the good stuff. So happy to be back with you guys. This is by far, I can honestly tell you guys, Saturday morning here is one of my favorite things to do. I actually absolutely enjoy training our docs, usually on Tuesdays, probably my favorite thing. But this by far, being with you guys, sharing some of the great insight, a different perspective that has changed millions of lives because of the information that we get, okay? And we give you. Now, the great thing about giving you some amazing things, don't forget that we actually have an amazing newsletter. It increases and gains. All you need to do is scroll down all the way to the bottom, put your email address in there. I literally pop on. Our great investigative journalists are always taking this. They even take the show and they write it into a format of reading so people can actually have another venue of getting information. But our newsletter opens up, it gets hit by people all over the world. It's fantastic, great journalists, great investigative journalists, great stories, great things that change your life, videos, everything. It's fantastic. But as you can see on the newsletter, you went to the website, but remember, go to the top right of the website, and you can see the most important button on that website, Find a Clinic. For all of these wonderful doctors, and speaking of wonderful doctors, one of our interns, Lucas, has now became Dr. Lucas. He graduated. Congratulations, Lucas. He is right now, if you are live on Instagram or live on a thing, he's on there. You can say congratulations for his graduation. That was many years of intense study, and he trained extremely hard his whole career. So I'm very happy to tell you that he has now joined us. He's actually going to be by my side for a while because On Instagram, no joke, you can definitely message us. Now I talk about Instagram a lot because it's a page that we get just messages flooded. I mean, last night we had a healthy dessert event here in Green Bay, and I think Dr. Lucas and I, and Dr. Sam, and Dr. Devin, and actually Dr. Kira, and I think we have like 5 other people that consistently work with our Instagram. We got all the messages off yesterday. Dr. Lucas did jump on this morning, and what happened? Laundry list of messages all over again. So we're like, okay, we're gonna go through the messages. So please, you can DM us there. You can also, once again, if you do have something that's very important to talk about that's private, you can also email me at pflynn@thewellnessway.com. Now, once again, if you do have a Wellness Way doctor or practitioner, please do me a favor, directly talk to them because they understand your case, they understand what's going on, they understand everything about your body. And it's important that they have a little bit more of understanding. Me coming from a distance or trying to get a simple information for you to give you a little bit of guidance, somebody that you have there working with you would be so much easier for that to happen. So definitely find a clinic, see what's going on. You're going to see the wonderful things that happen that way. It's going to be quite awesome. These docs are highly trained, and so welcome Dr. Lucas from going from a student that I've known for about 4 years now to a doc. It's a big accomplishment, putting all that time in and schooling in, so it's great to have him on board. But like I said, every month we do have more Wellness Way offices that will continue office and more doctors, even just add those offices. We added another doctor out to one of our Colorado offices. We had another doctor recently by Dr. Devin now in our Pensacola office. We seem to now have more offices, but we add more doctors in every month. So check them out. It's kind of cool. In the newsletter, we kind of highlight them on there. So you can, once again, but if you're on the platform right now, on Instagram, on TikTok, whatever, broadcasting live, it changes every week because they usually kick us off one or another every once in a while. Did they kick us off Instagram this morning? They did. So I guess we're on our platform and Facebook and all the good things. It's just the nature of the beast. It's everything. So that being said, say hi, Dr. Lucas. So all right. Now, one thing that I want to recap, I can honestly tell you, I did not realize. Now, I'll tell you this, guys. I always try to put out information based on your demand. What do I mean by that? Is when I see repeated questions on a regular basis, obviously there's some hot topic, there's something that people are suffering with, and I can honestly tell you, the majority of my questions come from the women who are suffering from some health condition, or they're confused, or they're being misled. And that's why, once again, when we do things, we look at the general population and what they suffer with. Now, I understand this. Let's always do this. You know, do you ever notice this? And I know there's hot topics and everything. Could be from politics, could be from vaccinations, could be from healthcare. And people always want to talk about the exceptions, but that's not the rules. You know, for example, you know, it's kind of funny. You know, it's like everybody wants to talk about the exceptional things. I'm like, oh no, let's talk about just the rules in general, okay? And there was you can see from the slide here that I have up right here, this was something done I did last month, and went absolutely crazy because with the trend of fasting and working out and what a woman should look like as far as body composition and everything, what's a woman to do, okay? Now it's quite interesting. It became quite a topic and debate about things, and I put a ton of information out there. And it sparked everybody from, I had PhDs use my video on TikTok and things like that, talking about should women have a six-pack, should women fast, should this. Now remember, go back and watch the full format. For example, it's really interesting, let's talk about this. When I talk about women should not have six-packs, will there be an exception to the rule? I honestly tell you, there probably will be. I just haven't met them yet. You know what I'm saying? They're like, Doc, you say some pretty bold statements that, women should not have six-packs. Does that mean every woman? I would say a high percentage, if not the majority, if not close to 99.9%. Is there a 0.1% that could change that rule? Absolutely. I just haven't met them yet. Really honestly true. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. That means, could I run both the thyroid hormones and the Dutch test on somebody that would equate to them having normal hormones with a six-pack? Could happen. Yes. It's just been 24 years. I haven't seen it yet. It hasn't. And anybody that wants to argue the point of having normal hormones and having a six-pack, what they do is they take it out of context. Let me give you an example. For example, I invited this guy twice now on my show because, once again, he did a video with trying to disagree with my point about women should not fast because their labs are not normal. You can't be healthy with being a six-pack. Now what he said, he goes, well, I've seen many women with blood work. But see, that's the fallacy. See, that's a fallacy. I can honestly tell you, I have ran many of the thyroid hormones with women that were very skinny and actually even had a six-pack. And I can honestly tell you, on the thyroid hormone labs, guess what happened? There was a lot of normality, if not sometimes all normal. But see, because when you look at certain blood markers, when it talked about, like DHEA, once again, produced by the adrenals, fantastic. Even if you stress out a little bit, adrenals or the DHEA can go up a little bit that way, even in a normal range. Even cortisol levels, even estrogen levels, okay, certain estrogens, like estradiol. But what happens is, so then they equate, well, say they look at it, you have normal blood values, of course. But if that was the only hormones that dictate your life, I could agree with that too. But when you look at the other hormones that regulate other things in the body that deal with not only menstruation, breast, the health of your physical aspect, but also mood, emotional, there's hormones, once again, that are really sometimes fat dependent. All right, now what do I mean by that? That means, for example, if you know that hormones can convert from one form to the other, and that can happen in the liver, that can happen into the kidneys, that can happen in the GI, that can happen in the adipose tissue. And adipose tissue, once again, is very important to women. Now, on the flip side, when I say that, a lot of them go, great, I have fat, it's good. No, once again, there's that delicate balance. You need certain adipose tissue, certain fat tissue, to help your body convert certain hormones to one form or another so you can have normal function for normal things. Because like this guy, his name is Lane, and once again, I respect him as an individual. We have differences of opinion. I invited him on the show just to share his differences. He didn't respond, and I wasn't going to have a debate with him and say, hey, listen, why don't you share your ideas? And I could share mine, and maybe I told him we probably have some similarities that way. But the idea is, he goes, it determines on what, actually you think health is. I'm like, well, that's the thing. Most people define health by how they feel. I'm sitting there going, health is just equated to one thing, function. That's it. That's it. That's actually a true definition. It's function, okay? So if you have amenorrhea, your body's not functioning well, so you're not healthy. And amenorrhea, for example, is when a woman will no longer menstruate or skip a cycle or skip it for a couple months. And he tried to play it off as like that, well, that's no big deal, it's just you skip a cycle. Well, see, that's the thing. See, that when you come from a medical standpoint, when you come from, as we call the fire department standpoint, you sit there and go, well, skip a cycle is not that bad. Well, yeah, because you're looking at disease processes, which will eventually lead to the disease process, but you don't care to the steps that you get there. See, we do. It's all about function. So that's why when I talk about these markers that way, you need other markers like the Dutch test, which once again has very little to do with production. It's all about conversion. But some of our hormones, and the majority of your hormones, ladies, that deal with your estrogens, remember, don't forget to throw the S at the end, deal with conversions. If you really think about this, if we were to take a pool of 10 estrogens, 2 are really produced. The rest are taken and forms changed into some active forms that really do a wonderful job of other tissues of the body. Let me give you another example of an organ like that. Your thyroid. Like, what, doc? My body produces T4 and T3. Well, true, but not true. If you think about this, T4 is the majority of your hormone produced. And yes, your body does produce some T3, but guess what, guys? The vast majority of your T3 is converted. Do you follow me on that? Okay. The reason why I asked that to you is because it has to go to the liver and convert, has to go to the kidneys, convert, and has to go to the GI to a small amount and convert. And we probably don't even realize it probably happens in other tissues. We just don't know everything about the human body. See, and that's another thing. If you ever notice this, you'll always talk about, I'm sharing ideas. Why am I sharing ideas? Now, and people say facts. I'm like, okay, yes, there's some things that we can say are kind of factual and stuff like that. But you understand there's a lot of things we don't know about the human body that can throw things off later, that things that you thought were fact before. If the last 3 years has taught you anything, people will speak with so much confidence, and this is the way. And I always tell people, there's usually some underlying thing that they're trying to control people to do that way. That's why, once again, I tell people, I'm going to share an idea. If you like it, take it. If you don't, it's okay. Just to debate the ideas that way. But the last 3 years has really shown us that people speak with such great confidence like they know what they're doing, and how did it turn out for all of us over the last 3 years? Yeah, I said, and they use the word science. Does anybody understand what science really is if you look at it? If you really want to look at to blanket science and then blanket understanding of it, just like when you talk about health, a blanket idea about it is about how well the body functions, okay? Now you can get to some minor details on it that way, and we can debate those things. But if you look at like science, you know what science really is? Think about this thing. And it doesn't matter if you're an astrologist, it doesn't matter if you're a doctor, it doesn't matter if you're, you're an archaeologist. You know what science really is? It's your observation of how the universe works. That's it. You're observing it. That's it. Guess what happens? We can scientifically prove that dinosaurs are here. Why? Because you can observe the bones. You know what I'm saying? Cool. It's an observation. See, that's why when they say science, it's like, then science changes. Well, but they equate science with facts. It's an observation. And guess what happens? Never happens in male to female relationships. Some people may have a different perspective. You see him? And do you ever notice people that have to yell the loudest actually probably are wrong the most? That's why it's really funny. I'll be very strong because I don't want people to be misled. But the idea is this: I'll just share my ideas, just quietly, over time. That's why you hear me say this a lot, honestly. And I was here last night, and it was great because there was 4 ladies that were here. There's this wonderful family I've taken care of almost since I started. Now they see my other doctors here now. But no joke, there was a family that I take care of 4 generations. Well, the 3rd generation was here, and the 3rd generation, the family had a husband and wife. They're wonderful people. They had a son that's the oldest and 3 daughters. Well, the oldest son, or the son's wife, and then 3 sister-in-laws were here, sisters were here. And we were just talking about it. And we even talked about it last night because they came, once again, the Green Bay office here put out a wonderful, Dr. Mitch and Nicole did a wonderful job last night, and all the team put together a healthy desserts night, and it was just so fun and so great. And a lot of the people that were sitting there too were people I took care of when I was even young in practice. And the ladies mentioned last night, because they've been there they've done these events with us for many years. And they said, Patrick, you've said the same thing since we were kids, because some of them are in their later 20s, early 30s, but I took care of them since they were 7, 8 years old. And that's the thing, because ideas that are successful will last the test of time. It's really funny. Maybe I should do this one time. It just popped in my head right now. Maybe I should do the history of medicine at one time. Okay, now let's say this. You know how everybody is big into ice baths, which I encourage you to do. I like them, I really do. I've done this for a long time. I always ended my shower on a cold shower. Way before cold plunge being popular. We used to always end in a cold shower. Why? Because you understand how the body works. If you go back to some of my videos 8, 9 years ago, because that's when I really started to do a couple of videos, I would say, women, want to lose weight? Guess what happens? Do this. End your shower really cold. Like, why? Because shivering causes your thyroid to do what, docs? Increase. So your thyroid hormone, by nature, will force it to produce. That's why people that were under my care and they had thyroid problems and they had low thyroid, I said, guys, here's what you want to do. Get into cold showers. I gave that advice for 20 years, okay? And what that did was allow people to stimulate their thyroid. But by saying those ideas over and over again, guess what happens? They do stand the test of time. But let's go back to this cold plunge. What if I told you, get in a cold plunge, but here's what we're gonna do. Here's what we're gonna do. When you're in that cold plunge, I'm gonna put a bunch of leeches in there. Now, for you guys that don't know the history of medicine, do you understand that bloodletting with leeches was a common practice and known as science a long time ago? And not that long ago, to tell you the truth, where it was like, what happens is this, the reason why you're sick is you have bad blood. So we're gonna put leeches on there to get rid of your bad. Do you understand? Let's go a little bit more crazy on this and look up some U.S. history. Does anybody know how George Washington died? Does anybody know how George Washington died? See, because even when George Washington was here, they believed it was bad blood. So they did bloodletting. They pulled as much blood out of you as possible, and they killed him that way. See, they don't put it in the history books that way. But actually, if you read about it, that's how he died. Bloodletting. Okay? Now, once again, you're going to get some person on here that's going to try to debunk that because they'll say, well, it's not really bloodletting. They just pulled some blood out of this. No. They're saying this was the practice of, this was the science of medicine. That's why it always changes. Do you know what's always changes? We always hear this a lot when we talk about certain problems in life. You don't want to build a house on quicksand. You got to have a strong foundation. Everything you talk about in life that lasts has something based on a strong, true foundation. And that's why, if you ever look, medical practice changes all the time. The only thing that they don't want to change is things that make billions of dollars. For example, this for some reason, because once again, when people are ingrained with ideas, people have a very hard time changing ideas, even if they're wrong. For example, I will tell you, and I'll make this statement as my opinion, I would never allow anybody that I care about ever get a mammogram. They're disgusting, they're horrible, and I don't want to hear your stories in the comments that mammogram found my breast cancer. Yeah, the doctor you've been taking care of, that take care of you, led you to breast cancer in the first place, and they could have done it by a better diagnostic tool that wasn't so damaging to your body. So I don't want to hear your sob stories, okay? See, because I triggered some women emotionally by saying, well, they found it with a mammogram. Yeah, and weren't you under care of a doctor? Aren't you mad at the doctor for leading you into breast cancer? Second of all, once again, they have better diagnostic tools that are more appropriate and better, and you were developing that cancer for a long period of time. If your doctor was doing the right thing, you wouldn't even be in the first place. See, I said that's why you debate so many things, because they're all emotional. But the idea is this, is you tell people, once again, I would never let somebody get it because, once again, and they're like, well, it's a great tool. No, it's not. There's a lot of other tools they've already created that, once again, that are a better way of observing that tissue than a mammogram. Do you understand? But then why don't they get rid of it? You're going to get rid of a billion-dollar industry? I might say billion-dollar, multiple billion-dollar industry that way? Of course they don't. Do you understand? And see, that's where it's like going, listen, there's other ways that you can do it. So I'd like to go through one time, maybe I'll do it as a show, the history of medicine. It will freak you out. It will. And do you understand that there is no drug that has ever stood the test of time? Do you understand? None. They have to change it because of the major negative side effects. Aspirin itself has to change everything because it affects the population in different ways that are detrimental. The practice of medicine, once again, because it's based on foundational things that have to change because there's no long-standing repeatability of it that way. So that would be a great debate to go over there. And now, once again, and I'm not saying that you don't advance on the aspect of medicine to look at certain things that need to be done in the world. What do I mean? If you try to equate medicine with keeping people healthy or healthcare, it's why we're so sick. It's why even the last 3 years even existed, okay? But on the flip side, you know what's really funny? I'm going to go through it in our process of autoimmunity today, that, hey, guess what? The concept of autoimmunity is people are so misled on it, and how they even tell you how to deal with it and what our current form of healthcare can do with it means nothing. And I'm going to go through that today, and that's why the treatments have to always change and evolve. So what they called scientific 5 years ago for the same condition is something different. So which one was fact? See, we're going to go into that, and that's why I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to write up just for a special show, the history of medicine and how it will always continue to change. It really will. There's only one holy grail of medicine that won't change because it is not only the biggest farce in medicine, but also it's the biggest money maker. It makes more money than big oil. Does anybody know what it is? That's right. It's what they try to give your kids and convince they need to do before they go to school, and we'll leave it at that so we don't get kicked off. So, back to that slide. Fasting, working out, what's a woman to do? Once again, there has been major factors, and get this, I'm hoping she's watching, I hope she watches. A medical doctor reached out right away because the fitness expert wanted to debate me on this, and on the aspect of hormones, and she was the exception to the rule. But lo and behold, she bowed out of the debate. Do you know why she bowed out of the debate? Because she probably watched my material and ended up realizing that she was going to lose that debate. Because the doc is like, well, she's the exception to the rule. The medical doctor, and the medical doctor considers herself a functional medicine, more integrative doctor, and she's like, all of her blood work's normal. And I asked her one question. I asked the doctor one question. I said, Doc, can you do me a favor? Can you give me her Dutch test or her Genova test, which is another lab that's very similar, or her ZRT test, which once again looks at all of the other estrogens that now equate to if she is a healthy individual when it comes to female hormones. And I never got that lab. Because you know why? Because it was never done. So as everybody wanted to debate me, it's like going into debate about statistics and not having statistics to debate about. You say, now, why do I bring that up? It's because, once again, when you take something out of context compared to a short clip, watch always the whole show. I know these shows, once again, they're longer, and our attention span can only last for about, what, 2 minutes, if that, on Instagram or TikTok and things like that. But you're going to learn something by sitting down and watching something more long format, which now that shows us this. I'm going to start. Thank you, Dr. Jesse, for starting the process of autoimmunity month of March. What's our month of April for? What do we do? Do we know? Have we any idea yet? Travis is going to pull it up for us that way. Oh. Allergies. Oh my goodness, yes, allergies need to come up. Oh, this is my new Hawaiian jacket. It's not Hawaiian, but I got it in Hawaii, and it's kind of cool. So, yes. Yes, but anyways, allergies, we'll be covering that pretty good that way, so let's go on. So let's jump into the perspective, continue with Dr. Jesse, and he started our week last week, so let's jump into our Wellness Way perspective. Oh, I love that music. Just gets you all pumped up and get ready for that. So here we go. I think I have about 30 slides to go through on this, so it's going to be kind of fun and dig deep. And remember, you can always go back and watch these shows on thewellnessway.com or on Dr. Patrick Flynn's YouTube page. We're going to start doing more short YouTube clips coming up, speaking of shorter clips. But actually, this has been very difficult for me, just before we get into perspective. I've been working with a team, and we bought a new TV. You saw Nicole use it. It's getting right on it that way. And it's kind of cool. We're going to start doing 5 or 6 minute clips. And I'm like, 5 or 6 minute clips, that's gonna be really tough for me, but I got them scheduled. I'm gonna work on them. I'm gonna condense everything that we do for short clips and everything, so you guys can keep that attention span a little bit shorter instead of and then every once in a while going to longer format shows. But here we go. Autoimmune disease. So what I want to do, because I like this, and what I want to show you this, is a lot of times I've said this, medical practice and medical research never match up. Now, what do I mean? There's a lot of things that they will study, but it doesn't apply to the business model of medicine, so therefore it's not done. What do I mean? If you ever notice this, you hear this a lot. Well, this medical drug company has this patent on this medication. That means they're the only ones that can do it. And therefore, it's going to be a wonderful business model, because if they can convince the world that they need it now, guess what happens? There's billions and billions and billions of dollars. Well, that's why the whole thing over the last 3 years, they're fighting over who had the best shot, okay? So therefore, when you look at even certain governmental things that will study things, you can tell sometimes you're on the right track, but now, if it's applied to medical practice, it doesn't meet their business model, or the thinking is dramatically different from what they've trained their doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, everybody to be able to apply to the patients. And so therefore, it would be contradictory to what their overall basis is. For example, let's spin it and let's be devil's advocate when it comes to me. So all of a sudden, a person comes in, and I want to approach it from the Wellness Way approach, which is understanding that the body doesn't make mistakes. We're trying to help it restore normal function, healing, trying to remove the trauma, the toxins, the thoughts that disrupt the normal function of the body. But you know what is this? This patient walks in, and this has happened. Now, this extremely hasn't happened, but this has happened where a person walked in my office because they were very sick. They came to me, reversed all their problems. It was fantastic. And this was a guy. And he wasn't a believer at all when he first came in. He's like, who's this quackery? This is stupid. I can't believe my wife is spending money here. But then he got sick enough, and he came here, and he became an extremely believer because of his results he got. Then all of a sudden, he walked in, he was walking like this. And I'm not joking, guys. His arm was bent in half. And I was like, I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that his arm was broken. And he had to talk to me first because he just didn't trust the doctors in going to the emergency room. And I looked at him and said, dude, do you want me to call 911 to get you the ambulance? And he's like, no, my wife will drive me to the hospital. I was like, I couldn't imagine. I think he was in shock too, because the amount of pain he had to be going through that way. But he had a compound fracture. And apologies, didn't break through his skin, but he had a multiple fracture. And I was like going, both bones are broke. I'm like going, get your butt to the hospital. and get some drugs, heck, drug the crap out of you, and get some surgeries done, and he had to have plates put in there. Thank God the wonderful people at St. Mary's Hospital, the surgeon did a great job. Now, isn't it funny? Sometimes it's confusing with people when they say, Doc, you just tore on medical practice, and now you just gave it a huge compliment. Yes, because they stayed in their lane. See, they stayed in their lane. Now, if I would have been like, you know something, let me see if I can go get you a bottle of Boswellia. I'm going to get you some calcium lactate product because you know you have some bone that needs to be filled in there. Got to make sure that your vitamin D levels are good so the bone goes into the certain place. Make sure you got K2 and all stuff like this. You guys would tell me right now on this show that you're an idiot, you're a moron, get that guy to the hospital. Well, like I said before, when you look at somebody trying to take care of somebody by using a drug and surgery where that approach will never work, or using a shot and try to tell you that everybody needs a shot across the world to protect you for some bug. That's the way I think. And that's the way a lot of people are starting to think when it comes to no different than me stepping out of my wheelhouse, which is we are experts in health and they're experts in trauma. That's their job. But don't negate my job. You know what I'm saying? And that's why the practice of what I need to do didn't equate to that. The practice of what autoimmune diseases and what they study and what they want to do with them will never match up. That's why, for example, you're going to find out, and let me give you the end stage of this talk today. They always have to respond to what the body's doing instead of figure out what went on. Okay? And that's why you'll hear a lot of people say, well, you know, we go after cause. Well, that's I think is a little misleading too. I think the natural world uses that too much. Because you know why? I've never seen one cause to one problem. I haven't. Well, you eat bad, it's cause. Yeah, but you ate bad, you stressed out, you didn't sleep, you don't exercise, you're overweight. See, there's multiple causal factors. Does that make sense? See, so let's go through this and let's define and let's go over what they have here when it comes to autoimmune disease. So I just pulled out the National Institute Environmental Health Sciences. So it's part of the NIH, okay? And they could produce some decent things. I even like their definitions, but let's read it together. Okay, here we go. A healthy immune system defends the body against disease and infection. True, I agree with that. But the immune system malfunctions. This is where we see it differently. See, so now how we approach it just from that statement right there is dramatically different. It mistakenly attacks healthy cells, tissues, organs. Now, Travis, come back here in a second. I'm going to read this for you. And I want you to burn this into your head because I'm going to show you that within their own website, within their own explanation, it's contradictory. But let me go over it. Let me say this one sentence again. But if the immune system malfunctions, it mistakenly attacks healthy tissue, cells, tissues, and organs. But wait. A healthy immune system defends the body against disease and infections. But see, that's what I said. So how does this? I want you to picture this. And I ask PhD scientists, everything like that, immunologists, because that was my field before I became a chiropractor. That's why it's kind of funny when people disagree with my stuff. They don't look at clinically what I've done or my other education. They try to pigeonhole into a profession that actually has an expansion on this process, being a chiropractor. But think of it this way. I say, okay, listen, what happened to that? Let's take just a T cell. Let's take a macrophage, okay? Or let's take a natural killer cell. What happened to that? So, and picture that immune cell. Picture him like Mr. Pac-Man, okay? Because that's what he really does. He goes and chews up all the pebbles. So Mr. Pac-Man's right here, okay? Did something change in him that made him say, I'm gonna go eat healthy tissue? I know it sounds really simple, but what changed in him? Nothing. Do you understand? Because he is programmed to defend against diseases and infections. So what you think where the body says, but the immune system malfunctions, what do you say? Did he do something wrong? He can't do something wrong. He's programmed by, no joke, stimulus and red flags. For example, let me give you an example. If something goes wrong with a cell, it will literally put a flag outside of the cell membrane and say, something's wrong on the inside. And then Mr. Pac-Man will go, waka, 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 waka. You know what I'm saying? And eat them up. That was a malfunction. And see, what did you consider a healthy cell? That's the part I love about like going, and they go, good point. And here's what happens. Why did it attack this one specific organ and not every cell? Because there's no autoimmune disease that attacks every cell of the body. See, you have to ask these questions. But when you understand that the body doesn't make mistakes, there had to be something that happened. What stimulated that immune cell? What directed? What told that immune cell to go after it? Well, it had to be a red flag. Will the healthy cells have those red flags? No. So here we go. Let's go back to the slide. Called autoimmune diseases, these attacks can affect any part of the body, weaken bodily function, and even turning life-threatening. You're right. Autoimmune diseases, Dr. Jesse pulled out from statistics. It can be one of the leading causes of death between the ages of 25 and 50, basically. Scientists know about more than 80 autoimmune diseases, some as well known, such as diabetes type 1, multiple sclerosis, lupus, and rheumatoid arthritis, while others are rare and difficult to diagnose. With unusual autoimmune diseases, patients may suffer years before getting a proper diagnosis. Most of the diseases have no cure. Some require lifelong treatment to ease what? Symptoms. So all they're doing is responding to what's happening on the inside. Well, I mean it sincerely. That's why you've been conditioned to do this. Well, doc, how long do I take this drug? For the rest of your life. For the rest of your life. To manage what's going on. See, but if you really think about it this way, and this is why I'm always going, if the body doesn't make mistakes, the body's responding to what's going on. They respond to the response. Okay, and I'm gonna show it to you. But let's go on. Let's go scroll down a little bit farther here on thing. Here's that next paragraph. Collectively, these diseases affect more than 24 million people in the United States. An additional 8 million people have autoimmune antibodies, body molecules that indicate a person's chance of developing autoimmune disease. Red flags. Do you get it? Autoimmune diseases are affecting more people for reasons unknown. Likewise, the cause of these diseases remain a mystery. Studies indicate these diseases likely result from interactions between genetics and environmental factors. Okay, come back to me. Don't you love language? Don't you just love this language? Genetics. Okay. What do you think about this? Why don't you really think about this? Let's just take some simple concepts. The average American goes to, over the age of 40, goes to the doctor, and number one thing they get diagnosed with is high blood pressure. Oh my goodness, and Mr. Jones, you know, we just found out you have high blood pressure. Now this time they're 40 years old, okay? Oh my goodness, my dad had high blood pressure, my grandpa had high blood pressure, it's genetic. Remember, once again, it's probably the most misleading concept there is on the planet. Because if it's genetic and it's your blueprint, why didn't you have it from the day you were born? And on top of it, the day you're born, they do a lot of medical procedures to you that they call normal, which is considered healthy in their eyes, that could even stimulate something to go bad right away. We'll get that in the whole childhood thing that way. But the idea is this: why did you develop in 40? What genetically happened? Because you know what some is this? If you think about it, your genes are there to help you respond to what's going on. Do you understand? You're genetically programmed to try to be healthy, try to adapt, and try to live. But I do love this. They try to blame, because if they can convince you it's your genes, then guess what happens? That means you have zero control over your life. It's the ultimate play. It's the ultimate play. And see, if you do study a little bit more, you know genes can be turned on and turned off. That's why the whole term epigenetic came in. I mean, the environment within the body that you create turns things on and off. I watch people freak out about this, and I know I'm going to trigger some of the natural moms right now. My child has the MTHFR. Yeah, you know why? because you were never taught by your pediatrician or your mother or your family or your generations that maybe you should be eating methyl groups, which was a common thing that we ate on a regular basis. So if you don't have methyl groups, now what happens? You're going to have a hard time methylating, and you got rid of all your organ meats and all your healthy foods that you used to give as eat while you're breastfeeding, eat while you actually you gave your child, and now your child's have very poor diets that don't have any methyl groups that way, and all of a sudden the gene responds, and now you can't methylate. And you ask any people that know anything about methylation, what's the best thing you do for them? Give them methyl B12. Well, where do you get methyl B12 from? Organ meats. Do you follow me? We don't eat those things anymore. That was common practice for generations before the last 50 years. Oh, it's a gene problem. No, it's not. You didn't give your body what it needed, and the gene responded to it. And now you can't methylate. So now you put methyl groups in your body, and now you can methylate. Big surprise. Your body's genetically programmed to do these things. But you still need to give it what it does. Environmental factors. Okay, here's what happens. Environmental factors, you're right. But what are environmental factors? Because it's genes and environment. Greatest way to blanket and describe nothing to people where they can take actions themselves. Let's go on a little bit farther. Gender, race, ethnicity characteristics are linked to likelihood of developing an autoimmune disease. Autoimmune diseases are more common when people are in contact with certain environmental exposures as described below. Wait. Think about that. All diseases are more common when people are in contact with certain environmental exposures as described below. Well, that means if you're suffering from any autoimmune disease of any of the 80, that means you're coming in contact with things that could trigger the immune system to respond to what's going on. When was the last time that if you found out you had Hashimoto's, rheumatoid, Graves, lupus, the first thing a doctor says to you is we need to find what's triggering it. Nope, here's your corticosteroids. Be on it for how long? Rest of your life. So even within their own medical research, the business of medical practice doesn't match up. Let's see what they say are some of the factors. And this is where I will agree with race and cultures can have it based on number one. Sunlight associated with autoimmune disease, okay? The NIEHS study suggests exposure to ultraviolet radiation from sunlight may be connected to development of juvenile dermatomyositis and autoimmune disease associated with muscle weakness and skin rashes. Okay, so what they're saying is this. Now, for example, I look a little tan right now. Do you understand before I went to Hawaii, I had to shortly expose myself to sunlight, to UVA and UVB, because I am an Irish white boy. Do you understand? I am white as white. So therefore, if I would just go to Hawaii without prepping my skin, my culture, my heritage, my race would make it very difficult for me to go into the sun and enjoy it, which could even cause some oxidative damage by the UVA and UVB, which could now lead to even problems. Now, let's take this. If you are of African American descent, you understand, and that is your race, you have less chance of doing what? Of having that same kind of reaction going in the sun. But watch this. Let's see how culture and race and ethnicity differs when we go down to the bottom here. Take a look. Role of nutrition in development of autoimmune disease. The same company funded research indicating that vitamin D may be important for preventing immune dysfunction in other populations. Let's come back here. Who's going to get better vitamin D production? The person who has less melanin in their skin. Because melanin has a better job of actually reducing the effects of UVA and UVB. And so therefore, you have a harder time producing vitamin D. That's why statistically, as a culture, as a race, African American people suffer more from vitamin D deficiency than the white race. Do you follow me in that? Isn't it funny? See, this is where the culture thing go a little different. So I'm just saying, I don't care what race you are, keep your vitamin D levels what? Normal. You get tested for that. But let's keep on going on here. Childhood poverty linked to rheumatoid arthritis. Okay, research discovered a link between low socioeconomic status in childhood and rheumatoid arthritis in adulthood. The effect of lower childhood socioeconomic status and lower adult education levels equate the combination effect of having both a parental and personal history of smoking. Okay, why don't you just say smoking? And The other guy has all some poverty stuff in there. Agricultural chemicals in rheumatoid arthritis. Research indicated that the NIEHS found that exposure to some pesticides may play a role in the development of rheumatoid arthritis in male farm workers. What about the people that eat that food? Does anybody know the number 2 most dominant autoimmune disease on the planet? Rheumatoid. Maybe the chemicals that farmers are putting on your food? You understand? Let's go on. Organic mercury may trigger autoimmune diseases. I wonder where you get that from. Genetic factors in autoimmune muscle diseases. The research identified the primary genetic risk factors associated with autoimmune muscle diseases in Caucasian populations in Europe and in the United States. Gene-environment interactions of rheumatoid. A study funded by the NIEH pinpointed the mechanism of gene-environmental interaction that could explain why genetic risk of rheumatoid arthritis is amped by environmental populations like cigarette smoke. So what they're saying is this. What they're saying is the fact that if you introduce this bad thing in your body, some people respond differently. See, that's where it is a little bit different. But you know what's really funny? You still had to put a stimulus in for your gene to respond. Your gene didn't make you sick. What they're saying is, let's give you an example. If you lift weights and you're a 200-pound muscle man and you're a 100-pound woman that has no muscle, guess what happens? Who's going to resist more weight when it goes to lifting it? The muscle guy. Guess what happens? Certain genes can be based on woman, man, race, that all of a sudden a cigarette smoke comes in and you are more susceptible to its getting weak faster. Okay? It doesn't mean just because you're a 100-pound woman or a 200-pound guy that has a ton of muscle that you're not resistant. It's just that some of us will give in easier than others. Okay? That's why when they talk about genes, your genes trying to respond and make everything normal, but you can overload it, and some people are overloaded a little easier than other people. That's the way to look at a genetic factor. Now, what can we do? That's the big thing. See, that's the big thing. What gave you this? Think about this. It talked about it. The immune is responding to something. And the immune system, once again, now has a response. Now is a response to both an environmental factor, which I'm going to go into detail of that in a little bit. But if you look at what the medical world does, they say, oh my goodness, here's what we need to do. We need to produce something that can decrease the immune response, because that immune response going after that tissue is causing damage to that tissue. But you know why it's causing damage to the tissue? Because the tissue is unhealthy. That tissue is not going to be good for the whole body in a long term, and so your immune system is trying to change it to get rid of it. And it might be your thyroid, it might be your brain, it might be your joints. But your body says, you know something, I gotta break this down. Do you understand this? I love this. So get this. So I was in Hawaii and I was visiting with Dr. Katie in the office over there. And she said, you want something? She goes, there's a house for sale not far from mine, but it's a fixer-upper. It's a fixer-upper. I said, cool, but the fixer-uppers are much cheaper than buying the one that's brand new. But which one looks better? Which one do you want to live in? The brand new one. So what's a fixer-upper? In order to fixer-upper, let's say you have a house that has some rotten walls, bad carpet. Do you just go in and lay new carpet down on the old carpet? No, everybody going, that'd be horrible. There could be toxins there. It could be mold. No, you rip it up. That'd be me. I'd be the immune cell coming here, got to rip it all up before I can rebuild it. That's how the body works. Dear Sam, even healthy tissue dies, the immune system removes it, and then your body builds it back up. So what you think is a mistake, where those cells are saying, I need to die. I can't even repair because I'm in the way of repairing, having new tissue come in. But some people and some bodies are so weak because they are not restoring. They don't know how to restore that body back to normal, because there is no drug or surgery that restores the body back to normal. That's how the Wellness Way was birthed. That's what gave birth to this company 24 years ago, with a different concept of restoring and rebuilding. But if you notice this way, the way the medical system looks at it and says, We need to calm that immune system down because it's making a mistake. And they're wrong. Do I believe that sometimes that the immune system is produced and you don't even have the other cells to make it not go overboard? Absolutely. But they call that a cytokine storm. It's not really a storm. It's just you still lack something else to regulate the immune system. So if you think of it this way, the medicine says, let's regulate it with a medication. And I'm saying, wait. That corticosteroid you gave them, your body produces them already. Why are your own natural corticosteroids not available? And there's one very potent corticosteroid, steroidal hormone that we have that does keep our immune system in a balance and normal check. Here we go. Emerging role of vitamin D in autoimmune disease and updated evidence and therapeutic implications. Vitamin D plays a role in the calcium homeostasis. Yes. Guess what happens? It regulates calcium to other parts of the body, thus provides an important support in bone growth by aiding in the mineralization of a collagen matrix. That means all your joints and tissues. Maybe that has to do with something with the rheumatoid. However, vitamin D performs various immune modulatory, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, antifibrotic actions. Autoimmune disease results from an inherent activation of the immune system, whereby the immune response, there it is, the immune response is directed against harmless self-antigens. Does vitamin D play a role in the pathophysiology of autoimmune disease? And if so, what is the role? Last decade research interest in vitamin D and the correlation of autoimmune disease has considerably increased. We conducted a literature review, and we'll skip through all that one, we'll get to the analysis down there. The analysis demonstrates an inverse association between vitamin D and development of several autoimmune diseases, such as SEL, thyrotoxic, type 1 diabetes, MS, vice versa, all the other conditions. International multi-center study could allow us to confirm the data already present in literature in a single clinical study to evaluate when the effectiveness supplement vitamin D in patients who do not take corticosteroids. See, vitamin D is a very potent, once again, form of like a corticosteroid. That's why you ever see what happened over the last 3 years. What's one thing they encourage people to take? And its effect. Because once again, it helps modulate the immune system. So I tell people, vitamin D is fantastic and it can be tested for. So step 1, make sure your vitamin D is tested for. Step 2, omega-3 fatty acids. And you guys know I talk about this all the time. I love cod liver oil for so many multiple reasons. Is there an immune modulation effect? Absolutely. But it also has vitamin A. So you have vitamin D and vitamin A in there. Vitamin A is not only great for the immune response, but it's also great for your skin. Because once again, if you look at acne and other cystic conditions, you're going to notice that you're vitamin A deficient. Now, is it the only reason why I have acne? No, there's hormonal reasons, but a high reason why we have acne is what? A vitamin A deficiency is why that when you take a medication, like once again, some of the Accutane, it's a synthetic form of what? Vitamin A. And that's why if you take it for a significant time, you can get vitamin A toxicity of the liver because it's not meant to us break it down. But let's look what the research talks about. Here we go. Vitamin D supplements, low risk of autoimmune disease, researchers say. Now, if you look, you say, Doc, you're just talking about vitamin A. Yeah, let's go on. In a new study, investigators from Brigham and Women's Hospital found the people who took vitamin A or vitamin D and omega-3 fatty acids had a significantly lower rate of autoimmune disease, such as rheumatoid, arthritis, polymyalgia rheumatic, autoimmune thyroid disease, psoriasis, than people who took a placebo. So they actually did a really good randomized clinical study on this. So it's fantastic. So when you look at, once again, these things do what? They give your body what it needs to regulate its immune system because it's genetically programmed to regulate if you have the constituents, the ingredients, the building blocks that you need. See, not only the fact that if you look at it this way, the immune response that they tried to negate by doing the medical approach, and that's the business medicine, we're just going to give them a steroid. We're only going to talk about steroids. We're going to knock their immune system down, and we're going to tell them they need it the rest of their life. Yet all the most basic scientific things talk about triggers. There's something triggering it. And then on top of it, you want to give your body the regulatory things so your body can regulate its immune system to keep it in check. So then therefore, if the triggers and stimulus is still there, at least you have some things to do it. So that's what the natural world does, which I think kind of, once again, is kind of crazy. So you got the medical world and you got the natural world. Because you know why? They say, hey, listen, just take a bunch of supplements. Well, doc, isn't that what you're saying? No, you forgot the first part. Look for the triggers. Look for the stimulus. And yes, I have no problem. And these are very well documented what it can do. Take a look. Vitamin D, omega-3 fatty acids, reishi mushroom, as you guys know. People always say, doc, we know you talk about organ meats, but if you were to give us one thing to take, what would it be? It would still be the medicinal mushrooms, by far, because they help the immune system more than anything, in my opinion, even more than vitamin D, even though vitamin D, once again, is very, very important. But you look at herbs like licorice. Why would licorice be up there, doc? Because you know why? It helps you produce and gives you the building blocks to produce your own corticosteroids, just like ashwagandha does. Now, but almost everything on there, I apologize, let me rephrase that. Everything on there is still just a natural compensation for the triggers and stimulus that are leading to the autoimmune disease in the first place. And that's why both the medical and natural field will fail, because they're just the same concept with just different things. That's why you say medicine and alternative medicine. This is not, the wellness way is not alternative medicine, just because it has those things. It's the concept that's applied before you even get to the things that can be used alternatively in the first place. So I want you to think about this. What do all these things have in common? Natural medical things still do not address the environmental factors that lead to these things going on in the first place. See, they're just natural and medical immune modulators. That's all they are. And I'm not against either one of them. What? Doc, did you just say that? Yeah, I'm not against either one of them. If you're so programmed that you think medicine has to do it, take a steroid. If you're so programmed that natural things are there, take all the natural stuff. Guess what happens? 2 years from now, you're still gonna be sicker. That surprises people when I say that, because the concept, the perspective still has left you not digging for the triggers of the stimulus that leads your genes to respond to and the burdens that lead to your immune system being elevated in the first place, that you need the medical or natural things to respond to. So the Lancet produced something that I thought was a great research article. Now, I just pulled the abstract for you. And I will tell you this. You guys have heard me say this a lot. Even in Hawaii, I still sat back and read, literature, because I do love reading full studies. I subscribe to a lot of journals, which means I just pay for them. And I like to read the whole thing, not just the abstracts. And so Lancet produced a paper that I thought was quite brilliant. You don't see much of this. And see, this is where I would like to, this is where I'd like to have a discussion with people that massively believe different than I do. And let's say, and I want to see this. Instead of saying the word belief, I want to use the word observe. Because what's science and observation? Do you understand? Because watch this. I've even seen documentaries like this. The science of God. Well, I'll give you an atheist. This is what he sees. And then guess what happens? You both can believe what you want to believe. And what happened and proved over the last 3 years is where the way you see things and the way I see things can be different, but if you try to force me to believe what you believe or force me to see the way you see it, that's where the difference comes in. See, I observe the world. Do I believe there's a God? That's just me. There's people that can argue, cool, here's what I observe. I'll tell you this just from being a doc. If you understand how this all works, you understand that how these things coordinate and how it comes together from 2 cells to trillions and then rebuilds every single day, and then understand that we don't even know everything about the human body, I just can't believe that happened by accident. My observation, I can't get that. I can't. Now, an atheist can look at something and say, yep, I believe that we had a big bang, this. Okay, cool. Here's what happens. Science says neither one of you can prove shit. I can't even prove that Jesus existed. But I believe it. I'm going to go to the grave believing it. It's my observation. Do you understand? See, that's what I tell people. That's why the only time you ever see me get mad, the only time you see me get feisty is when you tell another person you have to believe it and this is your actions. If you don't, we're going to use the government for you to believe it this way and you're going to take these vaccines, take these things. Oh. Now you bring out the Papa Bear in me. man, you can believe in every vaccine, you can believe in every Buddha, you can believe in every Muhammad, you can believe in everything you want there. I'm cool with it that way. I really am. The minute you tell another person, including myself, that we have to observe the world the way you do, the Jesus that you read about flipping tables and grabbing a whoop, that's who you're going to get. You understand? So, that being said, I set you up for this article because it's going to trigger some people. Here we go. Vaccination and autoimmune disease. What is the evidence? Published in The Lancet. Here we go. Let me read it for you. As many as 1 in 20 people in Europe and North America have some form of autoimmune disease. Okay, Travis, come back to me for a second. We're going to do this, go back and forth a little bit more. That means that we have more people today, their immune systems are responding to some triggering stimulus than ever in history. Than ever in history. How? Why? Why is it that we have more medical and natural things in history, yet the rate of chronic illness, the rate of obesity keeps going up every year, and the experts keep on telling us they're smart people? Okay, let's keep on going. These diseases arise in genetically predisposed individuals, but require a what, guys? An environmental trigger. See, so what it basically tells you is, do genes have a play in the thing? Yes, but without an environmental trigger, means nothing. Let's keep going. Of the many potential environmental factors, infections are the most likely cause. Microbial antigens can induce cross-reactive immune responses against self-antigens, whereas infections can non-specifically enhance their presentation to the immune system. Okay, let me show you what that means. Okay, it's called molecular mimicry. A virus can go into a cell, and guess what happens? It could even help the cell, but it will leave a little flag that says, hey, I'm in here. Immune system says, you're different than all the other cells within that area. I gotta destroy you. You know, happens all the time. You think about it this way. If you think about it, infections are a double-edged sword. I always tell people. I heard this one time as a church analogy, and I kind of like it. And Christians, you know, I pick on you a lot, especially what happened over the last 3 years, because I believe a lot of you cowered out during COVID, and I'll never back down on that. But you look at church history, because I love history. I love medical history. That's why I'm a history buff. And the old saying is, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. We saw a Nazi rhyme over the last 3 years. It didn't repeat itself, but it got a little rhythm there, didn't we? Okay? So I heard this time when it came to church, and I said, wonderful church history. If you remember, if you go back 100 years ago, even 50 years ago, man, everything was fire and brimstone. And the whole movie, Flashdance, was it Flashdance? Was based on, if you dance, what happened? What was that movie again? With Kevin Costner, was it? Footloose, there you go. Footloose. Man, you were going to hell if you actually were dancing. And the pastor got up and preached, and this, and everything was fire and brimstone. And here's what happens. If you understand history, things always change. Things always change. And they have such huge dynamic swings because it's really funny. If you ever get extreme on one side, it pushes to the other. Man, it's just huge. And I love that movie because you saw the rebelliousness and the movie and everything. It was fantastic. It made whatchamacallit a household name. What was his name again? Kevin Bacon. There you go. Kevin Bacon. And they even used a church to describe it, that everything was so rigid for what people observed, because they observed that this way, the Bible says this, and they observed it this way. And a bunch of kids said, I don't think I'm going to hell if I, dance. But what happened in culture? 60s, 70s came along, and now even see it in churches. Now everything is grace. You can do everything horrible. It doesn't matter what you do. Just say, I love Jesus, and everything goes great. Now, of course, I'm making some exaggerations, but it's really true. I got a better analogy for you. to explain it. Because, really, the kind of answer is kind of in the middle. Meaning what? It's like driving down the road with two ditches. You go off the one ditch, bad. You go off the other ditch, bad. You better stay right in the middle. Does fire and brimstone and things like that have a place? Yes. Does grace have a place? Yes. But if you're on either two sides, you're going to run into a ditch. Guys, gotta have a little bit of both. No joke. Medicine sucks. It's horrible. The symbol for medicine is a serpent in the cross, and guess what happens? That's Satan. I've heard that stuff. On the flip side, you have the medical people saying natural stuff is quackery. It's all stuff like this. I ask both sides. Somebody build me or do me a favor for all you medical people. Take a full bottle of Tylenol, every one of you guys. Do it. And guess what happens? You're going to meet Jesus. On the flip side, you over-natural people. You ever had a toothache before? You ever had a really bad toothache? I think Jesus that there is a medication. Shit, I think Jesus that there's marijuana to at least knock me out, do something, get rid of the pain, do whatever you got to do. See, you get in either ditch, it's a bad day. The camps don't exist. Why do you think I came with the fire department carpenter? Sometimes you need the fire department, but you also need the carpenter. The answer is in the middle. See, that's why I can get along with everybody. But the only time I don't get along with the people is that they live so much in the fire department camp or the carpenter camp or the all grace people or the all fire and brimstone people or all, do you follow me in that? See, so that, you also learned a little about me today. That's why it's kind of funny. I do this on purpose. I don't know if you guys know this. Let's talk about this. If I'm around over-spiritualized Christian people, I will say every swear word on the planet. I went to the Christian radio station, didn't we, Travis? And I said, F word says this, and it's really funny, and it freaked them out. Yet, it's really funny. I had no problem then pointing out how they're not living the life, they're just acting like it, they're fake. That's the majority of churches too. You ever notice that? And on the flip side, if you're over natural, I'll be like I talked before. So you're telling me you would never take a medication? You're telling me if your daughter broke his arm, you'd never get surgery? Well, there's exceptions. Do you see what I'm saying? No. Let's stop talking about exceptions. Let's talk about some rules. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you ever notice this? It's really funny. So I had this example. I was talking to a feminist the other day. It was kind of hilarious because I hate camps. I hate people that live in camps and cultures and tribal stuff that way. Because they're usually speaking from their own hurt. And it's really funny. And we're just talking about men and women and stuff like that. And it's really funny. They wanted to always talk about the exceptions, not the rules. Let me give you since we're talking about controversial things today. This is just me personally. Once again, I'll share my personal beliefs with you. You don't have to believe the world or observe the world the way I do. This is my personal belief. I just don't agree with abortion. That's just me. If you do, guess what happens? We can sit down, have a cup of coffee. If anybody tries to hurt you, I'll love you. I'll even defend you. Do you understand? As long as you don't try to force me to believe what you believe. Okay? But I say, but here, watch this. I don't believe in abortion. Well, what about incest and rape? Okay, cool. Can we do this? That's the exception, not the rule. You're talking about 1 or 2%, not the 98%. See, people try to get in the exceptions in healthcare. People try to get the exceptions and all this stuff like this. That has everything to do with medicine and natural things. We always talk about the exceptions, not the rules. See, that's where it's quite interesting. Where when you look at all these factors and you talk about vaccines, you talk about the exceptions, not the rules. When you talk about healthcare, when you talk about all views. So it was really funny. I had this conversation because I have wonderful parents and I have really awesome talks with my mom. And I said to my mom one time, not a joke, it took me in my 40s, guys. And this is where I love training up my daughters to be themselves. I said, Mom, why is it if somebody tells me it's black, I gotta argue it's white? And she goes, honey, because you always seen it like gray since you were little. I was like, So I have a question for you guys. Do you just notice, especially if you're watching a show, you just don't see the world the way it is? You say, and the way most people see it. They try to tell you how it's supposed to be. You know, that's why if you're watching a show, you're a different kind of person. Welcome. Sam. See, so in all that put together, that's why you look at even this article. It's like, can't you see it? And they're wrong. Here's the sad part. If you're watching a show, you've experienced this. You could even share, come back to this slide. You could even share it with these people, and people argue the exceptions, not the rules. You say, so let's go on. The immune system uses fail-safe mechanisms. That means it's smart. That means it's smart to suppress infection-associated tissue damage, maybe vitamin D, and thus limits autoimmune responses. The association between infections and autoimmune disease has, however, stimulated the debate as to whether such diseases might be also triggered by vaccines. Now, why? Come back to me on this. See, because here's what happens. An infection comes in and passes all of your natural mechanism barriers, and maybe it's because you had a cut. Maybe it's because when you came in contact with chicken pox, which the majority of people, for thousands of years, I personally believe we've only been on this earth for 5,000 years, maybe a little longer. That's just me based on some observations. Okay, can you do a favor since I'm on soapboxes today? Don't you love when scientists say 300 million years ago? How the hell? Okay, let me say this to piss people off. How the fuck do you come up with that dumb shit? Just pissed off half you Christian people. But I'm trying to defend you right now. How the hell do you come up with it's been for, see, you know why? Watch this. Let me teach you some of their tricks. Do me a favor, people. Do me a favor. Think about space that has no end. Let's say you could leave this atmosphere. When does the universe end? See, our mind has to have blocks on it, has to stop it. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you ever notice that? You have to know, there's got to be a wall somewhere. There's got to be an end. See, we can't think infinitely. That's why I believe there's a God and I'm not him. That's no joke. That's the major thing. You want to talk about people say, Doc, what do you believe when it comes to God? My personal belief, I believe there's a Trinity and I'm not them. I'm not the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. The rest of me in the Bible is debatable. Do you follow me? I believe there's Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. I believe Jesus that way. That's just me. My observation, not saying I'm right. I'm gonna hopefully die believing that. But the idea is this, the rest is debatable. Because infinitely, I can't think beyond that. I can't think about space that has no time. Space that has no end. And why that's important is if you say, it happened 300 million years ago, that we came out of the ocean and evolved. They go, yeah, maybe that could happen because it was so long ago. See, they confuse you by giving these massive round numbers that you could never possibly believe that we could morph from that. I'm sorry. I can't look at this and say that we came from a primordial soup that just moved up like a blob and then formed into the stuff. You have to be, and this is me, a special kind of not thinker in order to believe that. I just can't observe it that way. And if you believe that, God bless. Let's have coffee. I'll sit with you. We'll have a good day. We'll laugh. We'll have some fun. We'll just agree to disagree peacefully. But I can't observe that. See, so if we come back to the concept when it comes back to the autoimmune condition, that virus comes in, and you see it this way, it causes an immune reaction. And that's why if you look, diseases might also be triggered by vaccines because the same immune response that virus could do, they're trying to mimic with a what? A vaccine, which now leads to these responses if your body can't respond to it. Indeed, there are numerous claims and counterclaims. The only people that counterclaim it are the people that benefit from it financially, and they've conditioned every parent to believe that they were the holy grail of everything. And that's why parents, instead of saying, maybe I just believed and observed something wrong, Here, the review the mechanism involved in the induction of autoimmunity and assess the implications for vaccines in human beings. Now, so let's go into this in a little bit more detail. Doc, can you explain environmental triggers because I'm still unaware? See, that's the thing. See, they use these words. Billions and millions of years, they use these words, environmental triggers. Well, what are they? What do they even define them in the literature like? So here we go. Environmental triggers and autoimmunity. If you look, there's factors that come in and do this. See, it's really quite funny. Look at, there's the gene thing, because some people are a little bit more susceptible than others, but they're still not weak. You know what I'm saying? If I lift weights every day and you don't lift, and I'm going to be able to withstand weight more than you are. Infections, yes, but dietary components, toxic chemicals, they all exist there. Let's go on. Here we go. Autoimmune disorders symptoms are initially nonspecific and indicate malaise, which is tiredness, fatigue, low-grade fevers, aches, and pains. Due to vagueness, patients are frequently diagnosed with autoimmune disease after they become weak and unable to function normally, which is, once again, the key to health, making the onset of disease difficult to pinpoint and the possible triggers uncertain. So let's come back to that. So when people want to argue with me about what health is, it even talks about this. Health is function normally. And making the onset of the disease, fires. See, so I don't observe the world the way the medical field has conditioned all you guys to observe it. Fires, diseases, conditions. Heart disease, cancer, diabetes, autoimmune disease. I'm sitting there going, I'm observing if your body is functioning normally because that's what health is. And that's what everyone you guys are even watching this show for, is to obtain that. Travis, will go back to that paragraph again. Making the onset of the disease difficult to pinpoint and the possible triggers uncertain because they don't even look for it. That's what we do. That's what I do. That's what our new Dr. Lucas does. That's what intern E.B. and Ryan will eventually do. See, here we go. In this issue, we present the series of papers and review, discuss, and elaborate various environmental triggers of autoimmunity. See, environmental, they're coming from the outside. Presents an extensive review of potential triggers in autoimmunity. The author discusses the loss of immune homeostasis. Wait, come back to me. Homeostasis, normal function of the immune system, health. And explains the mechanism of autoimmunity as related to infectious triggers by, there's that word again, molecular mimicry, epitope spreading, bystander activation. He describes the effect of dietary components. Hold the phone. Hold the phone. Miss Jones, nutrition has nothing to do with your health. Oh, you think I'm joking? We hear that in our clinics every day. Every day by the experts. You didn't hear about nutritional things over the last 3 years, did you? And if you did, you got canceled, you got kicked off, you got called quackery. He describes the effect of dietary components, focusing particularly on a recent study of sodium chloride to explain the effects of this common used mineral of the immune system, in particular the Th17, leading to an increased risk of autoimmunity. Milk and wheat components are reviewed as gluten sensitivity, celiac disease, and oral pathogens in the role of induction of autoimmune disease. So foods triggering the immune system. Wow, the reason why I'm a doc standing in front of you right now is because of that. You understand? Isn't it quite interesting? And it doesn't say gluten autoimmune, doesn't say gluten anaphylactic response. That means you can eat something and it just creates an immune response that doesn't result in a disease. Well, you know, said doc, I eat and I don't feel a darn thing. And then as your organs get eaten away, and because you're so disease-minded instead of health-minded, you don't realize by the time you catch on fire, we could have done this a long time ago. Over the last few years, studies have amplified our previous knowledge of the gut and demonstrates its wide range of importance and potential of triggering autoimmune when dysbiosis occurs, which means abnormal bacteria, occurs as a result of environmental factors. The review brings up essential facts about some of these environmental factors affecting not only the gut, but also the mucosa immunity, and describe gut microbial links to autoimmune disease, which means just an imbalance of microbials. Dr. Jesse called that last week. The authors discuss the importance of early detection of autoimmune via autoimmune testing to bring about a better outcome for patients by removing offending triggers. Think about this. That means the environmental factors are things that are coming from the outside, and it could be a virus. It could be a bacteria disrupts our bacteria. It could be a food. It could be a toxin. It could be mercury. It could be a shot. It could be a chemical. So Lane, I know you have a PhD. When you posted something saying bad food doesn't matter. Really? It's all about getting enough food. Yeah, I believe malnutrition is a bad thing. But when you have sucralose and other toxic chemicals that are triggering the immune system because you don't see a disease develop right away, it doesn't mean they're good. Here we go, because look at this chemical. Bisphenol A, here we go, which is in plastics. Maybe a potential link to autoimmune disease. It is ubiquitous in consumer products. More than 90% of Americans were found to have detectable levels of BPA in its urine. Studies have shown that BPA is an endocrine disruptor that can affect prenatal, childhood, and adult health. Review of BPA includes a general assessment of highly prevalent chemical in our environment. He then describes the 11 different pathophysiological and immunological mechanisms where BPA exposure may lead to autoimmunity. Okay? It continues to go on and on. Let's take a look here. Mercury. Do you see him? When they talked about it, mercury, okay? We talk about this. When you talk about it, you see the bottom there. Let's keep going. When you look, sought to clarify the role of mercury found fish consumption and its relationship to increased autoimmune disease by testing inactive antibodies in the blood in the Cheyenne River Sioux tribal lands community. The interaction of gender with blood mercury and arsenic proximity were significant, suggesting that the complex interaction underlying autoimmunity. That's right there. I think if you have done any reading from the past, you know where our highest levels of mercury came from. Okay, here we go. A very interesting research article is presented in the issue discussing the strong link between poor dental health and cardiovascular disease due to the severe bacteria, and then studying the potential association between the pathogens and antibodies produced against them. The elevation of the markers of inflammation in patients with acute myocardial arthrothrombosis, which means, for example, this. When people eat too much sugar, sugar doesn't destroy your teeth. Sugar feeds the pathological bacteria that grow and become large and now overruns and creates acidity that breaks down your teeth, which now leads to decay and cavities and things like that. But that bacteria can actually get your bloodstream and affect right to what? Your heart. That's why true strep infections like that could actually infect your heart if you had a weak immune system. But what does medicine do? The exception is not the rule. Oh, you get strep, if your child has strep, they can have cardiovascular. Because that has happened. But that's the exception, not the what. That's the rule. But you look at this. Let's highlight this in this article here. The antibodies produced against them. The immune response produced against them. Okay? That's why it's quite interesting. If you look, you can have some pathological bacteria. Dr. Jesse showed some from before. Look to the left. So that's why when people say, you know, doc, I have no idea what these triggers are. And you see in the research article before, there could be your own normal flora or even pathological ones, which mean, for example, they came from the outside. But do you understand this, guys? Candida can trigger autoimmunity. You say, doc, what do you mean? Candida is a normal flora, but yes, but if it overgrows, it becomes protective to pathological. That's why people say, doc, I got a yeast infection. It's painful, it hurts, it's destructive. Yes, but it's usually stimulated by some antibiotic. Because why? You cause the disruption you saw in the article of the microbial balance within the body. See, if you really look at it this way, it's just a chart I took from the research article. Environmental triggers break down oral tolerance, change the gut bacteria, enhance gut permeability. Now you get immune reactions, and there's your immune and neuro autoimmunity. Guys, this is how vaccines create autism. Yes, I said that. Vaccines create an immune response that breaks down the immune response, which now causes neurological damage, which leads to all these things. Just like the research says come out like crazy, which is not surprising. I called this before they even had the shots. Here we go. Thyroid is a target of adjunct autoimmune inflammatory syndrome due to what? There you go. Called it, guys. It's all published. The autoimmune inflammatory syndrome induced by adjuvants involving the thyroid could be the adverse effect of SARS-CoV-2 vaccination and could be underdiagnosed. No kidding. Published in all of our journals. And they even show that guess what happens if you have the immune response. And yes, they always try to say, look, the virus can cause this. Yes, but you try to mimic it with the vaccine. It can produce spike proteins. There can be damage in autoantibodies. There can be damage to the thyroid and all the other thyroid diseases that come with it. And that's why, guys, you're right. I do agree. I do agree. Take a look. That environmental factors are the biggest contributors to why you see all these major autoimmune diseases, and they're all-time high. But Travis, come back to me because I want you guys to look at me in my eyes when I say this. And it's how I observe the world. And I'll debate anybody on this. The reason why we have so many autoimmune diseases, yes, I agree with the medical viewpoint that there is major environmental factors that contribute to it. This is where they will try to fight me on this. And they'll disagree, and they won't disagree with the information. When you can't attack the message, you have to attack the messenger. And here's the message. The people introducing the most poisonous environmental factors is the medical field and all your doctors in the first place. And it starts with your pediatricians. What do you observe? Go back to 1986. The government, Reagan, signed into law an act that said, you are protected from all the damage that you cause Americans. And if there is damage, we'll pay for it. The schedule went up massively from a couple shots. By 1989, it tripled overnight, with no infectious thing that would even justify what they want to do in the first place. Yet the rate of disease has chronically went up since then. You're right, docs, I agree with you. There are environmental factors that contribute to autoimmune disease. You're just the number one cause. See, if you continue to look, infections, vaccinations, other environmental triggers of autoimmunity. You know, some of this, I think I made my point. Read it. But everything I tell you on the observations that happens, it's quite simple to show. The rapid rise of autoimmune disease globally has led some to label the situation as epidemic, and have presented in a special issue a sampling of many possible environmental triggers of autoimmune disease. But we hope the readers in autoimmune disease will also take away from the collection of one very important fact. Detection of predicted biomarkers in the early stage of autoimmune disorder can be used to identify, halt, and even reverse autoimmune disease. We sound the warning bell, but we also offer readers the hope of the solution. And guess what happens? The solution will not come from the cause. And your current medical system is the cause. Your current doctors is the cause. Your current government is the cause. The solution won't come from them, it'll come from us. Because you have to have a different perspective to see the world differently in order to do this. So thank you, Mom, for letting me know that when I was a kid, I felt like someone told me it was black, I thought it was white. Someone told me it was white, I thought it was black. And guess what happens this? Now I'm bringing you guys all to the gray. Because you know why? How are we doing over the last 30 years when it comes to health? People are fatter, sicker, more unhappy, more money spent in healthcare. Yeah, we have more money spent on both medical and natural things ever in history. It's kind of funny. Just to prove my point a little bit more, environmental triggers, pull out what Harvard talked about that way. I can go on, more immune cells that are triggered by it. And see, the thing is where it was different. This is how I wrote my immune system. My immune system, that's not my test. But look at the top right. This is a 3-year-old after they got a lot of environmental triggers given by their pediatrician. I'll let you guess what they gave them. And look at all those inflammatory things and the immune response and the damage that was caused by it. Just an observation. And I have observed this thousands, and all of our doctors put together have observed this hundreds of thousands, probably now after 20 some years, millions of times. So I guess that's where when people say, Doc, you're very strong on what you believe and know. Yeah. And it doesn't mean I haven't, observed things sometimes differently. But some of this, I've said the same observations. I've said the same things basically for 24 years. Because the foundation, the principles, the house of which these ideas are based on, which now led me to look at politics, religion, healthcare, all the same, isn't built on quicksand. It's built on solid rock. That being said, guys, we'll continue our series on autoimmune disease. We will continue this process of challenging people the way they observe the way the world works. Because I think there is a need for the change. Maybe I'm just Kevin Bacon of Footloose right now. It's time for us to dance. All right, guys, you guys have a wonderful weekend. My name is Dr. Patrick Flynn. Thank you so much for watching A Different Perspective. You guys have a great day. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a single video or live stream. Each week on A Different Perspective, we bring you the most cutting-edge information on health you won't find anywhere else. For more information on this topic, please visit our website. A Different Perspective offers life-changing information and resources to share and explore. A Different Perspective is leading a health revolution.